Hey guys, Jason here from Nurses to Riches. Welcome back to the channel. One of our viewers asked the question, is Sacramento a good place to live? So in this video, I'm going to be talking about safety. Is it safe to live in Sacramento? Affordability, how affordable is Sacramento? Employment, if you're a nurse, is it hard to find a job here? Weather, is it hot? Is it cold? Does it rain? Does it snow? Education, what are the schools like? Entertainment, what can I do for fun? And lastly, location. Is Sacramento in a good location? Monica and I moved from New York City to California 4 years ago. We rented in Roseville for 1 year and bought our first home in Sacramento 3 years ago. Since then, we've explored nearly every neighborhood in the greater Sacramento area. So in this video, I'm going to talk to you guys about what it's like to live in Sacramento. If you're new to this channel is one where I talk about what it's like to live life on the income of 2 nurses working and living in Sacramento and are looking to retire in 10 years or less by saving and investing at least 50% of our income. And if you're interested in this content, subscribe to our channel. First, let's talk about safety. Is Sacramento safe? We used to live in Harlem in New York City before moving to California. When we lived in Harlem, there was a noticeably heavier police presence in the area. And actually, New York City in general is known to have a big police presence. The budget for the New York Police Department reached almost $11 billion in 2020. Now, compare that to the Sacramento Police Department's budget of $158 million, and you're spending $310 per person to fund the police in Sacramento. Sacramento has a population of 513,000 versus $1,306 per person to fund the police in New York City that has a population of 8.4 million people. Now, let's compare the crime rates. In 2021, Sacramento's violent crime index rate was 35.6 versus New York City's 28.5. That's a violent crime rate that's 20% higher in Sacramento than it is in New York City. The types of crimes they look at when they gather this data include murder, forcible rape, robberies, and aggravated assault. When it comes to property crime, Sacramento had a property crime rate of 46.9 versus New York City's 24.9. This is twice the amount of crime in Sacramento when you compare it to New York City. The types of crimes they look at include burglary, theft of property, motor vehicle theft, and arson. One thing we've noticed while living in Sacramento is that there have been more shootings reported than when we lived in New York City. Just a few months ago, a police officer and his canine were killed during a car chase that ended up in a shootout with a suspect who was also killed. And just the other day, a man was shot dead in front of his wife and kids on the interstate by a motorcycle gang. We've been hearing story after story similar to these since moving here. It does scare us sometimes because we rarely saw anything like this while living in Harlem. And we think part of this has to do with the lack of police patrolling the neighborhoods and making sure that the neighborhoods are secure. So if you're looking for a city that has a low crime index rate, then you need to look outside of the Sacramento area. There are cities that are not so far away, including Rockland, Lincoln, El Dorado Hills, Folsom, and many other cities. And many of these are only 20 to 30 minutes away from Sacramento, so you're not too far away. Alright, next let's talk affordability. The Sacramento area is one of the most affordable places to live in California, a state that's notorious for its high living costs. If you're trying to choose between Sacramento and San Francisco, you'll find Sacramento's cost of living is extremely low compared to the Bay Area. You would need $16,140 in San Francisco for the same quality of life you would get in Sacramento for $10,000. Here's how the San Francisco versus Sacramento cost of living breaks down. Rent in San Francisco is 143% higher than Sacramento. Restaurant prices are 26% higher in San Francisco. Groceries are 17% higher in San Francisco. And Zillow puts the average home price of Sacramento at $410,000 versus $1.42 million for San Francisco. That's 346% higher. Yet, the pay in the hospital system that we work for is exactly the same all across its Northern California hospitals, including San Francisco, Sacramento, and Fresno. Sacramento being more affordable than most other parts of California also means that the homeless population isn't as high. However, we do still have a homelessness problem. Just like the rest of California, it continues to grow year after year. As you may know by now, California is known to have the largest unsheltered homeless population of any state in the country, and Sacramento is not an exception. Next, let's talk about employment. You all already know they're always talking about nursing crises and nursing shortages all across the country. Well, in 2019, nursing ranked the third most in-demand job of any profession in the US. And actually in California, it ranks the third for lowest nurse-to-state population ratio of all states in the US. That makes California one of the highest in-demand states for the nursing profession when you compare it to almost every other state in the country. Also, if you view our previous videos, I talk about how we were able to earn over $350,000 in 2020 with each working an average of 28 hours per week. Sacramento also has hospitals that are all within close distance to one another. For example, you have UC Davis Hospital, Kaiser North, Kaiser South, Sutter Downtown, and Dignity's Health Methodist Hospital, all within 15 minutes of each other. All right, now let's talk about the weather. Sacramento is located in the Central Valley of California. This means that it can get very hot and dry during the summer and cool and damp in the winter. The summer daytime temperatures often surpass 100 degrees, and common heat waves might bring temperatures exceeding 115 degrees. Our first year here, it felt like we were being exposed to 100-degree temperatures all summer long. And just because it's a dry heat doesn't make it a whole lot better. Okay, now let's talk about education. Sacramento's public school system is not known for its excellent academic standing. Sacramento has very few public schools that have ratings above 7 out of 10. Although there are some exceptions. If you are looking for great schools, you have to start thinking about having your child enrolled in a gifted and talented program or looking into private schools. But private schools, just like in any other city or state, can be pretty pricey. Waldorf, for example, costs anywhere from $13,050 to $20,000 per year, depending on the grade level of your student. And St. Francis is another private school, and tuition is not much cheaper. We're too cheap to enroll our daughter in a private school, so we've always worked hard to get her tested and admitted into a gifted and talented school or program. The top-rated high school in all of Sacramento and its surrounding areas is West Campus, and it has a low acceptance rate and is considered to be the 19th on a list of best schools in all of California. Alright, next let's talk about entertainment. Sacramento is a very small city. But with it being a small city, some of the things you might be able to find to entertain yourself are walking toward Midtown and downtown to enjoy the restaurant scene, the parks, watching movies in its IMAX theater, or taking a walk through Old Sacramento and its Boardwalk and Railroad Museum. Alright, the last thing we're going to talk about is the location. Sacramento is located in the northern end of the Central Valley, and because of this, as was mentioned in our first video, it is located within 1 to 3 hour driving distance to places like Lake Tahoe, the Bay Area, Napa Valley, Big Sur, Yosemite National Park, and many more places. So, with all of this information I've given you, I think it's safe to say that you might be able to draw your own conclusions about whether Sacramento is a good place to live in 2021 or not. If you're planning to move to Sacramento, let us know why. If you've changed your mind, let us know why you've changed your mind. And if you would never move here, let us know why not. Also, make sure you check out our other videos if you want to know what it's like to live and work in Sacramento as dual income nurses. And if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to leave a like or comment and give us some feedback. Lastly, if there's something you would like us to cover in future videos, let us know. With that said, see you guys on the next one.